sometimes I feel like I should do more of these kind of pieces, and sometimes I feel like I shouldn't do as many of them. I am torn. Some people in the audience really like it when I do this kind of thing, and some people in the audience really don't like it when I do this kind of thing. And I can't make up my mind, honestly. So we're just going to do it. We're going to do it because, hey, what the heck? We need something to talk about. So there's a low level YouTuber named Dankey Kang. And today, he's been making these like video essays lately. He was in the PC USA for a while, and he had some big childish blow up with Chris Halali, and so he's not in the PC USA anymore. And he tried to start his own little tiny communist party for a while, and nobody joined it. And so now he's trying to be an ultra-Maoist. He's trying to be the new Jason Unruhe. He's got a crush on the Maoist guerrillas of the Philippines, the ones that are really anti-China and are targeting Chinese apparatus. And so now he thinks he's an ultra-Maoist. And so he's been making these video essays as an ultra-Maoist. He's the new wannabe Jason Unruhe. And of course, to get attention for himself, he's going to try to, attack people that, the algorithms are also attacking. The U.S. imperialists are also trying to demonize me and trying to demonize CPI. And they've really gone out of their way to target us. So he is a low principled person, and he sees the imperialists targeting somebody, and he thinks, oh, maybe I can get a boost from Bill Gates and all of that. Maybe the imperialists who hate China and hate Russia will give me a boost if I attack Marxists who defend China and defend Russia, and he's just not a principled person. He's not really anti-imperialist. He just is an internet LARPer. And so he decided to take a swing at patriotic socialism, which isn't a thing because socialism has always been patriotic. And we're going to get into that later. But so I have some highlights of the video that was made by Mr. Dankey Kang, and we're going to react to it because he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. But the saddest thing about this is he didn't even write this. You can tell because the way he reads it, it's I am reading a script written for me by someone who is much smarter than I am. I mean, it's the most sad thing I've ever seen. I mean, it's embarrassing, right? I get on here, I'm just talking to you all, right? But he's on there. He has a script with all these like ultra-Maoist buzzwords in it about, settler nationalism and dogmato revisionism and blah, blah, blah. And these are words he doesn't understand. He doesn't know what these words mean. Somebody else wrote it for him. And he can't even pretend that it's his own words. He's not even a very good actor. He is reading a script written by the leaders of the ultra-Maoist cult that supports U.S. imperialism against China. And he is reading the script, and it's so sad. It is so goddamn sad. And I'm watching this piece, and I'm just watching this, and it reminds me of Jason Unruhe. It's very similar. But he reveals a lot of things about his personality that are just sad. And it's like this guy wants to be Vosh. This guy wants to be Thought Slime. This guy wants to be, he wants to be one of the big bread tubers, but he's not good enough to be that, right? And so today we're actually going to do him a huge favor because we're going to talk about him on this video. More people are going to watch me talking about him than will actually watch this video, right? I mean, his YouTube channel is very small and tiny. So actually we're doing Dankey a huge favor. So Dankey really, you should be thanking me, Dankey. This is more attention than you're going to get from internet communists and you've ever gotten. Like, this is a huge favor we're doing for you. I am gonna rip your ridiculous video to shreds here. And it's honestly helping you. And that's sad. And that's why I don't like to do these kind of things very often, because it's like I'm just giving attention to somebody. Right. And it's kind of like that's what he wants. Right. He wants me to get into a back and forth. Right. And, he's juvenile. I only felt like replying to some of it, but he gets into all kinds of personal petty attacks because he's a juvenile person. He's not a mature person. And that comes across in the video. I'm not going to respond to childish ad hominems, and insults on members of our organization and such. I'm going to focus on the political content, and we're going to talk about why he doesn't know what he's talking about, and how embarrassing this is, and the fact that the people who wrote this script for him and gave him the script to read against Caleb Maupin, who is a fascist and a white supremacist pretending to be a communist. The person who gave him this script, they should be very worried about him, right? And I hate to do them a favor too, because I'm basically alerting his bosses, his handlers, the leaders of his new organization where he's trying to be an ultra-Maoist or whatever. Like, they should also be worried about this guy, because I don't think he's going to be the most trustworthy spokesman, as you will see in the video. So I got a couple clips from the video, and we're just gonna go over his little. I mean, this is what he thinks he's got us. I mean, he's got us. Oh man, and you listen to the voice when he's reading his script. I mean, he just thinks he's got us. I mean, we're never going to recover from this video. I mean, we'll never recover from this attack. But here we go.
Of the patriotic socialist movement in the United States have their roots in the mistaken line of the CPUSA under Earl Browder during the 1940s. Browder, a revisionist, had aspirations to ideologically unite Marxism-Leninism with American patriotism. The uncanny and mismatched marriage of American settler nationalism with the internationalism of the communist movement.
False. I mean, right there, he has no clue what he's talking about. I have right here in my hand Earl Browder's book, Tehran, Our Path in War and Peace, the book for which Earl Browder was expelled from the Communist Party. Earl Browder, his revisionism was not advocating patriotism. The whole Communist Party was doing that. Every major communist party in the world did that. That was part of the Popular Front strategy. Georgy Dimitrov said that the communist parties of the world needed to promote anti-fascist patriotism. That was the line of the entire Communist International, was to promote anti-fascist patriotism. Earl Browder dissolved the Communist Party and changed it to the Communist Political Association, and he said the United States was not imperialist anymore. He advocated that the Soviet Union and the United States merge into one country that would have the best elements of both systems. He said that there should no longer be strikes because employers and employees should unite in democratic anti-fascism. Earl Browder's revisionism was not about patriotism. All communists in the 1930s were patriotic. So he has no clue what he's talking about. That right there shows you that he's clueless. William Z. Foster was patriotic, and after Earl Browder got kicked out of being the leader of the Communist Party for the positions in this book, the Communist Party was still patriotic, right? Go read Twilight of World Capitalism, published after they expelled Earl Browder for being a revisionist. This book by William Z. Foster is also patriotic, and it says that communists are the true patriots. The idea that Earl Browder invented patriotic socialism or invented patriotism is utterly ridiculous. Earl Browder dissolved the Communist Party. Earl Browder said there shouldn't be any more strikes. Earl Browder said the USA and the Soviet Union should combine into one country. That's not the essence of what Earl Browder's revisionism was. All communists during the 1930s, all communists were patriotic because that was part of the Popular Front line. That was part of the mobilization of anti-fascism. Georgy Dimitrov, who I quote in my new book, took the position of Georgy Dimitrov, the head of the Communist International, the anti-fascist hero of Bulgaria who became the leader of socialist Bulgaria. In 1935, the entire global communist movement was told to be patriotic by Georgy Dimitrov. And I have the quotes in my new book. I'll even read you. Right? So he has no idea. It's like, oh, well, there was this one guy who was patriotic. He was Earl Browder. He was bad. No. The whole communist movement was patriotic in the 1930s. I will read you what Georgy Dimitrov, the head of the Communist International, said. Right? Georgy Dimitrov said, the fascists are rummaging through the entire history of every nation so as to be able to pose as the heirs and continuers of all that was exalted and heroic in the past, while all that was degrading or offensive to the national sentiments of the people they make use of as weapons against the enemies of fascism. Communists who suppose that all of this has nothing to do with the working class voluntarily relinquish to the fascist falsifiers all that is valuable in the historical past of the nation, in order that the fascists may bamboozle the masses. So in the 1930s, I have the quotes here on the screen. I have the quotes right here in my book from where the entire Communist International, under the leadership of Stalin, under the leadership of Georgy Dimitrov, was told that in order to not let the fascists own patriotism and the history of the country, in order to not allow fascists to own that, all communist parties during the Popular Front period from 1935 to the end of the Second World War promoted American patriotism. So right there, when he tries to say it's just Earl Browder, he has no clue. He's never read Earl Browder. I've got Earl Browder's book here in front of me, right? And I know why Earl Browder was expelled. I've got William Z. Foster and his book repudiating Earl Browder, and it's still patriotic. So right there, the first fact that he's got in there, where he says he thinks he knows where quote unquote patriotic socialism came from, he doesn't know what he's talking about. So that's just the first thing there, right? I mean, that he's clueless. He has absolutely no clue what he's talking about. The Communist Party was patriotic before Earl Browder. Go and read their pamphlets from the 1920s, Our Heritage of 1776. You can go read how patriotic they were, and they were patriotic after Earl Browder. The Communist Party said communism is 20th century Americanism. Like, he has no clue what he's talking about. And it drives me crazy. Like, I've actually studied the life of Earl Browder. I've got biographies of Earl Browder up here. I've studied William Z. Foster, who was the guy who overthrew Earl Browder. I actually know this history because I'm actually serious about it. I'm not a teenage LARPer on the internet. So just right there, like, oh, well, all patriotic socialism was invented by Earl Browder. Wrong. It was invented by Georgy Dimitrov, and it was the line of the entire global communist movement as led by Stalin.
Not work well for a myriad of reasons. Most importantly, because it sought to gloss over the inherent issues.
It didn't work well. It didn't work well, right? So this line of the Communist Party of being patriotic, it didn't work well. Didn't work well. Now, what happened during the 1930s? Roosevelt built an anti-fascist alliance with the Communist Party, where they built labor unions, where workers occupied their factories, Social Security was created, the USA aligned with the Soviet Union to defeat the Nazis in World War II. Labor unions were recognized in all the major industries, in the steel industry, in the auto industry. Millions of working class people saw their living standards vastly improve because of these things. How did it not work well? The Communist Party during this period had almost 100,000 members. Now, they didn't take power. They didn't have a revolution. But compared to anything that Dankey's ever done, compared to anything any Maoists or crazy ultra-leftists have ever done, the Communist Party of the 1930s was way, way more successful than anything he can point to in the United States. I mean, it's like you want to say it didn't work out well. I'm sorry. The Communist Party having its conventions in Madison Square Garden, the USA aligning with the Soviets to defeat the Nazis, Roosevelt, the president of the United States, inviting Gilbert Green, the leader of the Young Communist League, over to the White House, unionizing, all the major industries of the United States. I mean, black intellectuals like Paul Robeson joining the Communist Party. Like, what is your measurement of not working out well, Dankey? I mean, you say it didn't work out well. It's worked out. There has not been a time since the 1930s when the Communist Party was in its Popular Front period where communism has had anywhere near the amount of influence among the U.S. population. Back in the 1930s, when Earl Browder was leading the Communist Party, and Earl Browder didn't invent patriotic socialism, but during that period, that was the height of American communist influence. That was the period where the communists were running the labor unions. That was the period where the Soviet Union and the USA were allies against the Nazis. That was the period where Hollywood writers were in the Communist Party. That's the period where like the leading black intellectuals, W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson and William L. Patterson were in the Communist Party. You're saying it didn't work out well. Like, what can you point to as success? I mean, I'm not saying that was necessarily the model. The Communist Party of the 1930s, they didn't have a revolution because it wasn't a revolutionary situation. But in terms of having an effective organization, Dankey, the Communist Party of the 1930s has astronomically way more of a base among the population than anything that's ever come since then. So for you to say, well, it just didn't work out well, like what does working out well mean? And what can you point to? What can you point to? Where's an example of unpatriotic socialism working out better? Show me an example of unpatriotic socialism, socialism that burns the American flag and says, America's an evil settler country. I hate America. So show me an example of that working out better, Dankey. Show me one example of non-patriotic socialism doing better than the Communist Party did in the 30s. Like, I mean, that in and of itself, you want to talk about ignorance. Like, he has no understanding of the history he's talking about. To say the Communist Party of the 1930s didn't work out well, I mean, that's like, I mean, again, they didn't take power, but, I mean, in terms of influence, Jesus Christ. Next point.
Holding the United States as a settler colonial project, and the implication that in order to be a communist, one must also be an American patriot. This confusing line was supported by numerous cherry-picked and out-of-context quotes from Stalin, and after Browder, many of these quotes, as well as quotes from Chairman Mao, are often cited to support this line. It must be stated that these various quotes are out of context and do not support the argument for American patriotism, but rather argue against it.
Well, let's pull up one of these quotes, Dankey. Let's pull up one of them. I've got a whole essay. It's not just a quotation. This is a whole essay by Vladimir Lenin called Great Russian National Pride. Vladimir Lenin called the Russian Empire the prison house of nations because there were so many different nationalities that were oppressed. But yet, Lenin wrote an entire essay in 1914 as World War I was breaking out, explaining why the Bolsheviks were patriots and they supported Russian national pride. They didn't support imperialism. They didn't support chauvinism against oppressed nationalities. But this entire essay says that communists are patriotic to Russia. That's what it says. They love Russia. They are proud of Great Russia, which is not just Russia, but the surrounding countries. That communists in Russia, the Bolshevik Party, embraced patriotism to Russia at a time that Russia was an imperialist country, at a time that Russia was a prison house of nation with many nationalities. Lenin advocated patriotism to Russia. He told the Bolshevik Party to love Russia. So this is not cherry-picked. This essay, this long essay, an entire essay by Lenin, at the time that World War I, an imperialist war, is breaking out, he's saying we have to oppose the war, but we are patriotic to Russia. We love Russia. We love the fatherland. We love Russia. We are proud of our Russian nationality. So how is that cherry-picked? How is this whole essay by Vladimir Lenin telling Russians, even though he calls their empire a prison house of nations, and he denounces Russian imperialism, telling Russians to love their country? How is that cherry-picked? How is that? That is not cherry-picked, my friend. If Lenin can tell the Bolsheviks in 1914 to love Russia, even though the Tsarist regime was a prison house of empire, prison house of nations, then how can we not love the United States at this very moment? I mean, this is just utterly ridiculous. I mean, oh, it's cherry-picked. It's cherry-picked. No, it's not cherry-picked. This whole essay, go and read this whole essay and tell me Lenin wasn't patriotic. Lenin was a patriotic Russian, but he opposed Russian imperialism. I am a patriotic American, and I oppose American imperialism. And it is my duty to get the American working class to understand that imperialism is also their enemy, and that the people of the colonized world share a common enemy with them. U.S. imperialism is not just the enemy of the people in the developing world, it's the enemy of all humanity. And the working people of the imperialist homeland should unite with the peoples of the colonized world against the big monopolies and big banks that run the United States. That is Leninism, that the working class at home should align with the people of the world to defeat imperialism. That's Leninism. But you don't think that, do you, Dankey? You think imperialism is good for the American people. You want the American people to think that imperialism benefits them. You just want them to be ashamed of it. You just want them to feel guilty about it. You just want to point the finger at them and say, you're a racist, you're a settler. I'm better than you because I read books. That's not Leninism, my friend. Leninism says that it is our duty to get the working class of the imperialist countries to align with the people of the colonized world fighting for national liberation. You have no understanding of what Leninism is. And I'm pointing you to an entire essay, not a cherry-picked quote by Lenin, explaining the actual Leninist position on national pride and love for one's country. All communists are patriotic. Patriotic socialism is not a thing. All communism and all socialism is patriotic. But continue.
One have the intellectual honesty to investigate their context. In my Essentials of Maoism series, I will discuss the issues of settler nationalism in depth, but the important lesson here is that nationalism may either be revolutionary or reactionary, depending on the state for which this nationalism advocates.
Well, I have said over and over and over again that we at the Center for Political Innovation are not nationalists because the United States is not a nation. We are patriotic. Nationalism is glorification and celebration of a nationality or a nation. Patriotism just means you want the best for the country that you live in. If you live in Brazil, if you want life to get better in Brazil and you love the people of Brazil, you're a patriotic Brazilian. If you live in Australia and you want life to get better for people in Australia and you love the people of Australia, you're a patriotic Australian. And if you're at all serious about politics in the United States, you can say, I love the people of the United States. I want the United States to get better. And that makes you patriotic. Nationalism is something different. And the United States is not a nation. We don't have a common language. We don't have a common culture, a common heritage. There are oppressed nations within U.S. borders. The black people, the descendants of slaves, are an oppressed nationality that's been segregated with their own communities, their own dialects of the English language, etc. The Chicano people are a nationality, but there is no American nationality. The American people are not culturally, economically, linguistically combined. We're not Frenchmen. We're not Scots. We're not Germans. We don't have a nationality. So I've said over and over and over again that I do not advocate a nationalism for the United States. So that is just a distortion. Number one, patriotism is not nationalism. And it is your duty to love the country in which you live. Right? And so saying that loving the country in which you live is nationalism, which it's not, it's patriotism. And saying that that is somehow, I mean, this is so much distortion here, right? He's doing leaps and backflips because he wants to be a LARPer on the internet. He doesn't want to build a mass movement. He doesn't want to actually win people over like the Communist Party did in the 1930s. He just wants to feel like he's better than everybody else. And he just wants to take a dump on the society he lives in and feel good about himself because all the people around him are a bunch of sheep, but he understands communism. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it. If you're at all serious about having a political impact in the country in which you live, you don't go around wishing ill will on it. You express a desire to make life better in America. Patriotism is just normal. If you want a better life for the American people and the society you live in, you're patriotic. There's nothing wrong with it.
Decolonial or anti-imperialist projects, such as new democratic projects, there is proletarian patriotism which can serve as a positive revolutionary force. However, in settler colonial or imperialist countries, the nationalism which manifests in these countries assumes a settler chauvinist position, which ultimately reinforces the settler colonial project.
Wrong. And you know who said you were wrong? Lenin. And it's not a cherry-picked quote. It's the entire essay by Lenin on how Russia was an imperialist country, but he was loyal to Russia and he supported national pride and patriotism for Russia. You're just lying. You're just lying. This is a bunch of woke crap, settler nationalism. That's not Marxist language. It's just a bunch of woke crap, right? You're talking about white privilege and mansplaining and all this. None of this is Marxism. This is all just woke crap, Dankey. This is just a bunch of woke crap. Put your Judith Butler in the garbage. Put your bell hooks and your Jay Sakai in the garbage. Go read actual Marxism. Go read Lenin, go read Stalin, go read Marx, go read Mao, go read William Z. Foster, go read actual Marxism. You're doing some woke campus garbage right now funded by the CIA.
To cherry pick quotes from the figureheads of Marxism,
not cherry picked, whole essays,
and dogmatically apply their line out of context and without
Not out of context, its entire essays.
Sufficient investigation is a
Yeah, I have actually done the sufficient investigation because I read the whole Lenin essay about why Lenin said that Russians should be patriotic to Russia, even though it was imperialist. So I actually have done the investigation. You haven't. You're just doing this woke thing, and you're not actually learning about the Marxist tradition.
specific type of revisionism, dogmato-revisionism.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell he totally thought of this on his own, right? No one wrote a script for him here. Well, this is dogmato revisionism. Like, I mean, this is so sad. Who wrote this script for him? But we'll get to that later.
Which we will also cover in my series. To recap, dogmato-revisionism is a form of dogmatism which seeks to rigidly and uncritically apply theory not derived from scientific investigation or the process of deriving true knowledge from practice, but rather out of a quasi-religious adherence to the words of these various figures.
And what's your practice, Dankey? What organization have you ever built? What movement have you ever built? Right? What efforts have you ever built to? I mean, when was your conference that you had? What protests and demonstrations have you been leading, Dankey? You're saying that theory divorced from practice, where it just becomes, it just becomes this thing you recite. That sounds a lot like your YouTube channel because I don't see you doing anything. The only organization you've ever been in, PCUSA, couldn't stand you, and you had a childish blow up, and now you're just a YouTube guy. So yeah, I don't think you should really be talking about how theory divorced from practice isn't okay, because I'm building a real organization and I have quite a record of practice, and you don't, my friend. You don't. You just shit on people who do on the internet.
This dogmatism enshrines, especially in this instance, a mode of reactionary thought in the form of settler nationalism, which debilitates
Settler nationalism. Again, we're not nationalists. Settler is not a Marxist word.
the proletarian movement. Enemy number one is Caleb Maupin, and
Okay, now here you hear this. This is important. This is really important here. I can't get over this, right? Wait. This is important.
a mode of reactionary thought in the form of settler nationalism, which debilitates the proletarian movement. Enemy number one is Caleb Maupin and his organization, the Center for Political Innovation.
That's right. Did you hear that? We are enemy number one. Enemy number one is the Center for Political Innovation. Enemy number one is not U.S. imperialism. Enemy number one is not the U.S. state. Enemy number one is not the FBI. Enemy number one is not the people trying to start a new world war against Russia. Enemy number one is not AOC. Enemy number one is not BreadTube. Enemy number one is not even Republicans and real right-wingers, right? It's not real fascists, real white supremacists. No. Enemy number one is yours truly, right? Can you think of somebody who is more chronically online and delusional than this kind of person? We're about to have a new world war. The government is talking about passing the Restrict Act, which would basically take away all of our privacy. The FBI is storming into the homes of black revolutionaries, pointing guns in their faces and calling them Russian agents. But enemy number one is me. I'm the biggest threat right now. This is the whole communist movement should focus on fighting me and the Center for Political Innovation. Can anyone be more stupid, right? Even I am a very egotistical person, I will admit, but even I don't think I'm that goddamn important. Like what universe does this person live in where the focus should be on fighting me? That's what he said. Enemy number one is Caleb Maupin and the Center for Political Innovation. Number one, right? The Ku Klux Klan, the FBI, the U.S. imperialists are all behind me. I, Caleb Maupin, am enemy number one. That's who we should be fighting. Some guy with a YouTube channel and a socialist group that puts on conferences, right? The RT reporter guy. That's who we should be fighting right now. You want to talk about someone who's not in touch with reality. You want to talk about somebody who is completely chronically online, has absolutely, people don't know who I am, right? Dude, go outside, touch grass, talk to the people in your neighborhood and say to them, are you for Caleb Maupin or against him? They won't know who I am, my friend. Outside of like leftist internet spaces, people have no clue who I am. My YouTube channel only has 26,000 followers, my friend. I am not enemy number one. If I'm enemy number one, like, what universe do you live in? Isn't this sad? I mean, he has to be like, has he ever talked to like real people before? I mean, does he just sit on his computer all day long? To think that I and CPI, I mean, as much as I love the work that we do and we're growing and we're doing great work and we're having great conferences, but we're enemy number one. Like, if you're a Marxist organizer in the United States, your focus should be on opposing me and the Center for Political Innovation. That's the focus. Should not on opposing AOC, not on opposing, the U.S. government, not on opposing the Republicans, the Democrats, on me. Like, that is so sad. That is so sad. So sad. That is just unbelievably sad. He lives in a universe. In his mind, I am the greatest evil. Not the FBI, not the U.S. imperialists, not the Pentagon. Me. I am enemy number one. Enemy number one is us. And as much as I think we're a very, very important person, wow.
Caleb is a chameleon who has been on the scene for a long time, and I'm ashamed to say that in my early days on YouTube, I promoted and platformed Maupin because I mistakenly believed him to be a principled communist.
This is great. Oh, this is great. He doesn't just say this. It gets better.
Now, let it be stated for the record as clearly as possible that I...
Not enough to say that. No, he's got to continue.
Wholeheartedly denounce the Maupinites with every fiber of my being.
With every fiber in his being.
And every breath I can muster.
With every breath he can muster.
Maupin is a threat.
Now, let's play that again, right? In case you had any questions about this.
Promoted and platformed Maupin.
This is great.
Innovation, CPI. Caleb is a chameleon who has been on the scene for a long time, and I'm ashamed to say...
He's ashamed to say it.
That in my early days on YouTube...
That in his early days on YouTube...
I promoted and platformed...
He promoted and platformed...
Maupin, because I mistakenly believed him to be a principled
He's so sorry.
Communist. Now, let it be stated for the record as...
clearly as possible...
that I wholeheartedly denounce...
He wholeheartedly
denounced the Maupinites with every fiber of my...
Every fiber in his being. This is so pathetic. Oh my God. Dude, I went on your podcast once. You are so scared. So scared of being canceled. That is the most pathetic, sad thing I've ever seen. I only talked to, I thought he was good, but I disenounce and disavow with every fiber in my body. But please, I have nothing to do with, please don't cancel me. I'm scared. No, I have nothing to do with it. Like, it is the most childish thing I've ever seen. This guy is pathetic. He could say, I had him on my show, but now I think he's wrong. I had him on my show one time. I didn't agree with him. Oh, no, I disavow with every fiber in my being. I'm so scared. Please like me. Please don't cancel me. Guys, I have nothing to do with that other guy. Please like me. It's the most childish. This guy is really weak. I mean, that is like the ultimate, like, groveling, begging for forgiveness. I talked to Caleb once. I'm sorry, guys. Please. I mean, it's just pathetic. I mean, it's one of the saddest things I've ever seen. This guy, I mean, all you'd have to do is say, I had Caleb on my podcast one time. That's all you'd have to do. But he's so scared, and he's so weak, and he's so fragile. Folks, I just want to tell you this, right? Anybody who will do this, if you ever see anything like this from somebody you know, if there's somebody in your life and you see them talking this way about somebody, run. Because if someone is this emotionally fragile, they will throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. They are not your friend. The second anyone suggests anything negative about you or you get any negative attention on social media, they are going to throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. They have no loyalty, no fiber. And those people who wrote that script for him should take note of that. I've never met this person. I went on his podcast one time, and he is literally begging for forgiveness. And with every fiber in his body, he's so sorry for ever having talked to me. I mean, it's like anyone who does this is not your friend. All right. That is what a traitor sounds like. That is what a pathetic, weak person sounds like. You don't want anyone, if anyone joins CPI and I find out they've been talking that way about anything, I mean, I'm going to hold them in extreme suspicion. I'll just tell you that much. Because anybody who is this easily intimidated out of backing away from somebody. I mean, he's practically on his knees begging for forgiveness that I went on his podcast once. If anyone's that weak and emotionally fragile, I mean, he doesn't have the moral courage to just say, well, I disagree with Caleb. Yeah, he came on my podcast once. I just disagree with him. This is a very weak person with no strength whatsoever. I mean, this guy is a completely fragile, broken person with no self-esteem, no moral courage, no pride, no self-respect. I mean, it's really sad to see him display himself like this, right? All he would have to do if he wanted to break with me is say, yeah, I used to like Caleb. I don't like him anymore. That's all he owes anybody. But he's so scared and he's so desperate to please the people who might cyberbully him. Oh my God. I mean, all the people who are writing his scripts for him, whoever these neo-Maoists are that are helping him write these crazy, stupid videos, he's probably going to do that to you. The second they get any negative attention or bad press, the second someone calls them transphobic, he's going to do the same thing to you. This is the kind of person you don't want in any organization. If someone's that pathetic and weak, you don't want them in your group, right? This is not a loyal cadre. This is not a loyal friend. This is the kind of person, revolutionary organizations, sometimes the government comes after them. Sometimes people are intimidated and threatened by law enforcement. This is the guy who would testify against his comrades in a heartbeat. This is the guy who would name names before the House Un-American Activities Committee in a heartbeat. The second he got scared that somebody might get mad at him, the second he got a notion that it might be unpopular, that somebody might judge him or whatever, he just crumbles. Like all he would have to do is say, I don't agree with Caleb anymore. Yeah, he went on my podcast once, but oh no, he's broken. He has no strength whatsoever. This is a very, very weak person. And if you see this kind of weakness in a person, get him out. Get him out of there. I'm just telling you, because this is a weak, trembling person who will put your organization in danger. I think there's a role for everybody, but if somebody displays these kinds of characteristics, this level of pathetic groveling before cancel culture, they're a danger to you. They're a danger to the whole organization. I'll just tell you that much. I've never seen anything like this. I have never seen anything like this. Again, all he would have to do on his tiny little YouTube channel is say, I don't agree with Caleb anymore, but he did this. Yeah. Wow. But continue, Dankey.
And every breath I can muster. Maupin is a threat because he knows the rhetoric of Marxism. He understands how to sound like a Marxist and how to speak with authority. But do not make the mistake I made and equate this rhetoric with a legitimate belief in Marxism. Caleb is the epitome of an ideological chameleon who changes his colors as often as he changes his suits. He promotes LaRoucheism and Duganism.
Okay. You know who else promotes LaRoucheism? The Chinese government. The Chinese government has Helga Zepp LaRouche on their media all the time. CGTN has Schiller Institute commentators on there all the time. If I'm trying to oppose imperialist war, I'm going to have a relationship with the LaRouche people. The LaRouche people are much more respected in China than any of the American communist groups are. And, I go to global communist gatherings. I've been to 2 World Festivals of Youth and Students. I was the honored speaker in Brazil at the Trade Union Center of Brazil's National Congress in 2016. I think I know a little bit more about global Marxism than you do. You, Dankey, are an ultra-Maoist. You're one of these very fringe, obscure elements. You are aligning yourself with people who don't support China, the biggest country in the world in terms of population, led by a communist party. People who denounced China in 1976. People who don't support Cuba and think that Cuba is revisionist because it didn't align with China during the Cold War. People who don't support North Korea. People who don't support Vietnam's, people who don't support Nicaragua, don't support Brazil. You are aligning yourself with a fringe group of fanatics who don't align with any currently existing communist government in the world. And you're going to tell me that I sound like a Marxist? My friend, I have been to these countries. I have met with the leaders of these countries' communist parties. I am well loved and promoted in Chinese media. The Global Times of China just ran an interview with me about where they mentioned my new Marxist book. I think I'm a little bit more tuned into the global communist movement than you are. You are aligning yourself with a fringe element that doesn't support any of the current Marxist governments in the world. And let me add that every ruling communist party in the world takes the same positions that I do on Ukraine, takes the same positions that I do on Taiwan. Name one communist government in the world that doesn't support Russia in Ukraine right now. One. There isn't any. Vietnam supports Russia and Ukraine. Nicaragua supports Russia and Ukraine. Cuba supports Russia and Ukraine. And in fact, they just built a huge statue of Fidel Castro in Moscow. North Korea supports Russia and Ukraine. Like, my views are in line with the global communist movement. Your views are in line with a couple islands in the Philippines, okay? That's who your views are aligned with. Your views are aligned with an Internet Gonzalo fan club, and my views are aligned with the government of Vietnam, the government of China, the government of North Korea, the government of Nicaragua, the government of Cuba, the government of Venezuela. So, yeah, you're telling me I sound like a Marxist. No, I know Marxism better than you do, my friend. And you are aligning yourself with a fringe ultra-leftist element, a weird, bizarre reinterpretation of Maoism that says the Soviet Union magically became capitalist after Stalin's death, that says China magically became capitalist after Mao's death, that denounces every existing Marxist government in the world, has a fetish for violence and killing, doesn't talk about economics. That's who you're aligning yourself with. You are aligning yourself with a fringe ultra-leftist current that calls itself Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, that has absolutely no influence anywhere in the world. The Shining Path is historical in Peru at this point. They don't have any influence there. The Naxals in India are pretty much irrelevant. They're not coming to power anytime soon. The Maoists in the Philippines have tried to surrender. Like, you are aligning yourself with an ultra-leftist reinterpretation of Maoism that the global communist movement has repudiated. China has repudiated these views. Fidel Castro has denounced these people. All the Peruvian communists I've ever met hate the Shining Path and consider the Shining Path to be a fringe, ultra-left, dangerous group. I mean, you're aligning yourself with one of the most obscure wings of global communism. There are more Trotskyites than there are people like you, my friend. The Trotskyites outnumber you, right? You are like, there are more people in the Fourth International than they are in your weird ultra Gonzaloist interpretation of communism. So, and you're going to tell me that I sound like a Marxist because I sound like the Chinese Communist Party. I sound like the communists. I mean, this is ridiculous.
With a reactionary populism and rampant settler nationalism. He's given
I've many times said I'm not a nationalist, explained that before.
Critical interviews to a fascist.
It was a debate. That was a debate I did with Cultured Thug. Do you know what debate means? It wasn't an interview. It was a debate with Cultured Thug. It was a debate in which we argued a lot, and we argued back and forth. That wasn't an uncritical interview. Let's go pull up the video right now. It's called Debate. The name of the video is a debate. Do you know what debate means, Dankey? Debate is when you argue against somebody. And it's not when you argue, you agree with them. It was not an uncritical interview. It was a debate. So he's just lying right there. He's trying to present what was clearly a debate as an uncritical interview. And I will link you in the chat. I will actually link this video, and you'll see that it was called a debate. It was an argument between us. It was not an uncritical interview. So he's just lying right there. He is lying, but I'll link that to you in the chat later. I had a debate with a fascist
named Cultured Thug, a TERF named Jody Brar of the notoriously horrible Communist Party of Great.
Well, hold up. I want to for some reason the video is being slow there. I wanted him to show
Jody Brar of the notoriously horrible Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist.
Can you see that? Now, he dismissed the leader of one of the biggest communist parties in Britain, who I had the amazing opportunity of just spending time with in DC. She was our guest speaker, our guest of honor at our conference. She is the leader, the vice chair of one of the biggest communist parties in Britain. And all he says is she's a TERF. Like he takes one position that she takes on the trans issue. He takes a slur for that position that's been invented by liberal trans rights synthetic leftists, right? Who are the crazy cancel culture, bread tube kind of people. And he said he makes it sound like this woman has been to Gaza. Do you realize this, Dankey? She's gone to Gaza to stand with the Palestinians. This woman was key in organizing solidarity with Libya and Gaddafi. This woman was, Jyoti is utterly amazing. This is one of the most amazing revolutionary communist leaders we have in the world today. And you're just like, oh, she's a TERF. It's like you are just such a chronically online cancel culture loser. Like, that would be like, it's like, what if I had shaken hands with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.? Would be like, Caleb once shook hands with a Zionist named Martin Luther King Jr. It's like, put aside the transgender argument. Like all Jyoti is to you, this amazing Marxist-Leninist leader of the big communist parties. She is literally the founder of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform. She leads a coalition of communist parties that includes the Venezuelan United Socialist Party, that includes the Korean Workers' Party, and all kinds of communist parties around the world. She is the chair of a global communist alliance, the World Anti-Imperialist Platform. And all you can say about her is, well, she's a TERF. She's a TERF. And because that's the thing. All you are, Dankey, is a chronically online person. You don't understand what real activism and real organizing is about. For you, this is all just some internet game where you just tack labels onto people. Oh, she's a TERF. It's like she's one of the most important communists in Britain. She is probably the most important communist in Britain today. She's one of the most important communist leaders internationally. She's the head of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform. She was key in supporting Libya. She was key in supporting the Palestinians. She was just like a keynote speaker in Venezuela at a huge conference of the World Anti-Imperialist Platform of Communist Parties. Like, this is a really important communist around the world who's the leader of a real organization that organizes real people. And it's like, well, she's a TERF. She's a TERF. It's like, Dankey, you have no clue what real organizing or real activism is about. You're just a chronically online person. And it's like, and then you're trying to say I'm not a Marxist. Jyoti talks to me. She doesn't talk to you. If anything, me having the vice chair of the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist, regularly on my YouTube channel is a pretty solid confirmation that I'm more of a Marxist. And you're claiming I'm not. I'm a chameleon who changes. This is utterly ridiculous.
And appeared alongside Alexander Dugin and a myriad of fascists at a conference where Maupin ranted against identity politics.
Yep. Russia is one of the main countries fighting U.S. imperialism today. The Communist Party is the second largest political party in the government. And the leading political scientist in Russia is a guy named Alexander Dugin, who started out in the Russian Communist Party. He eventually started the National Bolshevik Party, and then the National Bolshevik Party broke apart, and now he leads the Eurasian movement. And I have absolutely no shame about sitting next to him and talking about the confusion of the Western left. And again, Dankey, if you're anti-imperialist, why would you bait me for associating with somebody who is a very important and respected thinker in an anti-imperialist country called Russia? Meanwhile, Dankey, I don't know if you noticed this, but the Ukrainian Nazis, who were backed by the United States, murdered his daughter. They murdered his daughter. So you are basically aligning with the Ukrainian Nazis right now. They murdered his daughter. They've murdered other people who've worked with this guy. They think he is one of the main threats to the Ukrainian Nazis backed by the United States. And you are echoing them. And this notion that, oh my God, Dugin, you are basically repeating the line of the Ukrainian Nazis here, who murdered his daughter. And you call yourself an anti-imperialist? Oh, right. But you are aligned with the people that control like 2 islands in the Philippines and have gay marriage. I mean, this is so stupid.
Used bad right-wing arguments against the left that would be right at home.
And what were those arguments? And what were those arguments, Dankey? Refute them. If they're bad arguments, why? I mean, let's hear your refutation. I want to hear your refutation of my arguments. I used bad right-wing arguments worthy of Fox News. Well, refute them. I want to hear about them. If they're bad arguments, take them apart, debate them, point to things I said in the speech that were not true, dissect what I said. Don't just bait me for saying it, right? If I'm wrong, show me where I'm wrong. I'm not hearing any refutation of my arguments. He doesn't refute my arguments anywhere. He just says, oh, they're bad right-wing. And also, Dankey, you said worthy of Fox News. Tucker Carlson is on Fox News. And you do realize Tucker Carlson is one of the only mainstream voices who will admit that the U.S. government blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, right? Tucker Carlson is on Fox News, and Tucker Carlson is one of the only voices that is, open to speaking up for Julian Assange. So, yeah, that might be a burn like during the Bush years, but nowadays Fox News is way more anti-FBI, way more anti-war and anti-Pentagon than the liberals are. So me making arguments that might be on Fox News would mean I'm more anti-war and I'm more anti-FBI and I'm more anti-deep state. Have you paid any attention to, or you don't care about the FBI? You don't care about the wars. You just care about doing this woke. You care about who's a TERF and who's not. That's what you care about. You care about who's checked the right boxes for trans rights. You don't really care about Julian Assange, right? You don't really care about the FBI. You don't really care about the police state. You don't care about World War III. You just care about being a woke progressive, right? You care about calling people Euro settlers. That's what you care about. Oh boy.
His revisionism and right opportunism behind a thin veneer of...
Wait a second. I thought I wasn't a Marxist. a revisionist is a Marxist who's just kind of deviated from the line. I thought I was a chameleon just pretending to be a Marxist. Well, now I'm just a revisionist Marxist. You need to make up your mind there. So am I a Marxist who's a revisionist, or am I a fascist pretending to be a Marxist? Yeah, he can't make up his mind.
Browderist rhetoric and
not Browderist. Oh my God, he's never read Browder.
Marxist dogmato revisionism. He cites his movementist participation in Occupy Wall Street, his shout out from Nicolas Maduro, and his handshake from Daniel Ortega as credentials, and uses these instances as a bludgeon to silence his opposition.
Oh yeah, no one ever speaks against me. There's not huge videos on the internet. I use my... what is it? He says my participation in Occupy Wall Street, my shout out from Maduro, and my handshake with Daniel Ortega to silence all my opponents. Well, first of all, my opponents are not silenced. There is smears and lies about me all over the internet. My opponents are out there everywhere. Also, though, why is that a bad thing? Right? I was arrested at Occupy Wall Street in the protests. I have the respect of the leader of Venezuela, a socialist country. I also have the respect of Nicaragua, a socialist country. But I think I've done a lot more than that. I risked my life on a ship trying to bring medical aid to Yemen. Did you notice that? And created an international incident. And there was a phone conversation where John Kerry talked to Javid Zarif, the Iranian foreign minister, and they mentioned my name. And they were angry that I was the only American on a ship from the Red Crescent Society trying to bring aid to the people of Yemen. Oh, but I'm a Nazi, right? You fucking idiot. Right. I mean, I risked my life on a ship to Yemen. I almost get killed. Right. The port I'm supposed to go to gets blown up. Right. But I don't know anything. Right. I am the keynote speaker at the conference of the entire trade union movement of Brazil. All the trade unions of Brazil are united into one federation called the Trade Union Center. And they invited me, an American Marxist, to be their speaker about oil price manipulation. But, I don't know. I mean, it's like my resume as an actual Marxist who is respected in the actual Marxist world, in countries like China and Vietnam and Venezuela and Cuba and Nicaragua, not by stupid little islands in the Philippines and not by Maoist rebel news fans, but by like real communist governments in the world, is actually quite massive. And that gives me the authority to know what I'm talking about. And you don't think any of that's an argument. And that's the other thing about this. It's like there's no understanding that like organizing real people. It's like when he says the Communist Party of the 1930s didn't work out very well. It's like he has no concept of actually doing any real organizing, building any real organization, getting any real shit done. For him, it's all just this internet word game. Right? He has no comprehension of what actual victories in the movement, what building actual popular power means. It's all just this internet word game he plays with people, right? And it's like he can't understand why me doing real shit, being connected to real governments, being involved in real mass movements would matter. I mean, it's like he can't understand why that would mean anything, right? It's like, well, I mean, it's like he can't comprehend that. It's like he thinks, the fact that I've done a lot of real shit. I've spent a lot of time in Iran. I made a documentary about Iran. I went to Ferguson. I made a whole documentary about the Ferguson uprising where I interviewed people. When I was in Cleveland, I video recorded an act of police brutality against 2 black high school students, and they got acquitted in court because of my fucking video. Right. And you want to go along with the people trying to tell people I'm a neo-Nazi. Right. I have done more to fight racism, more to stand in solidarity with colonized people around the world, more to support existing socialist governments than you could ever dream of. And it doesn't comprehend anything to you. You think, well, I read the right books. I know the right words. I mean, it's like you have no clue what you're talking about, my friend. I have done more to stand in solidarity against oppression, to challenge the low-wage police state, to build an organization. And because I'm doing real shit and aligned with real governments and real mass movements, because I've been arrested, because I'm trying to build an organization and hold a community of people together, I have been more viciously targeted than you could ever imagine, my friend. I can't even describe, if you talk about the kind of things they've done to me, digging into my personal life and all of this, right? And all you've got is, he talked to a turf. Like, you are unbelievable. You have no clue what any of this actually means. This is real shit. Those Maoists that you romanticize in the Philippines, when they have a war and they shoot, like, those are real bullets that come out of their guns. And like, real people get shot and real people die. You have no comprehension of any of this. You have absolutely no comprehension of any of this. This is all just an internet word game. This is all just a bunch of debate bro stuff to you. And you sit there and you're just like, well, actually, it's a revisionist, a dogmatist. It's like you have no clue. And it doesn't occur to you why it might matter that I'm doing real shit and getting real shit done and connected to real people. None of that matters to you. I mean, it's like that right there. And then who do I silence? Like, no one. I'm not silencing anyone. Smears and lies about me are everywhere. I have no ability to silence people. If I could silence people, things would look a lot different. YouTube and the algorithms are rigged to tell dirty, nasty lies about me. And you're repeating those dirty, nasty lies, and you think somehow you're being silenced. You are basically repeating the Vosh line against me at this point, right? You realize that. You are agreeing with Vosh. You're agreeing with Destiny. You're agreeing with some of the biggest YouTubers on the internet in calling me a Nazi, a white supremacist, a settler racist, or whatever. and you think you're being silenced. I mean, that would be like, an American having a rally to support Ukraine and claiming somehow they're being silenced. Wow. That's like hating what you're doing against me right now is the equivalent of hating Vladimir Putin, in Kiev right now. It's like, unbelievable. And you're being silenced. Who's silencing you, Dankey? I want to hear who's silencing you.
Universally asserts are CIA-funded Malthusian degrowthers, ultra-left, and radical liberal bread tubers.
Well, actually, those are three different things, right? So first things first, Malthusianism and degrowth is the idea that we should reduce consumption. Marxism, if you read Critique of the Goethe Program by Karl Marx, the goal is to create so much wealth in society that inequality breaks down. By getting rid of the anarchy of production and the chaos of the market, so much wealth is created that the basis of the state and government can fade away, that class differences and social hierarchies can fade away. Marxism, according to Karl Marx, according to Critique of the Goethe Program, according to Capital, according to the Communist Manifesto, is about raising the level of wealth in society to reduce class antagonism and get toward the ultimate goal of a stateless, classless world. And there are people all over the United States right now who are promoting the idea that the problem with capitalism is it makes too much wealth and we should all be poorer. And I have pointed out that that's actually Malthusianism. The idea that we need to reduce the population, reduce consumption, is anti-Marxist. That's all I'm saying there, right? Degrowth, Malthusianism, the idea that you need to reduce the population, overpopulation, overconsumption, that is not Marxism. And that's all. That's that. So that's the first thing. It has nothing to do with the second thing, right? BreadTube. BreadTube are a bunch of YouTube personalities and Twitch streamers who are being promoted by the American government to speak in the name of socialism, and they aren't. And I was the first one to expose their connection to American intelligence. I revealed that Dr. Steve Hassan, the cult guru, is their advisor, and that he is a known CIA asset. His mentor was Robert J. Lifton, the U.S. Air Force psychiatrist, and he is well connected with American intelligence. And I revealed that. And then after I revealed that, Gray Zone revealed that Abigail Thorne, Philosophy Tube, one of the main bread tubers, is getting directly funded by the British government and the royal family. And then ContraPoints got the endorsement of Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton did a whole segment about how awesome ContraPoints is. So this is completely separate. My critique of degrowth and Malthusianism, that is just my understanding of Marxist economics. BreadTube and the CIA, I have been completely validated on. I have been more proven correct than anybody. All I had was inside information about Steve Hassan, and I wrote my book. And then Gray Zone got receipts about British intelligence, and then the icing on the cake was ContraPoints getting endorsed and hugged by Hillary Clinton. I have been more proven correct than anybody. So the fact that you would bait me on that and think that that's the same thing as the degrowth, that's not the same thing at all. That's a completely different thing, but I was completely validated on that. I was completely validated on that. 100%. Everyone admits I was right now, right? Everybody admits that I was proven correct. I was completely proven correct. Gray Zone has validated me. Hillary Clinton has validated me. We now know what I said. BreadTube serves imperialism. And I didn't even completely lay out the allegation. People were like, oh, he said BreadTube CIA. I didn't exactly say that in the book. I said they're probably being backed by a faction within our deep state. And nobody has ever been proven as right as I was. I was completely validated. And there's even a stream where what's his name? That kid who was big in the BreadTube universe, the ex-alt-right kid. I can't even remember. Oh, Caleb Kane, where he says, well, it's not just Steve Hassan. He says, I only talked to Steve Hassan a few times. There's this whole network of exiting extremism and deprogrammers that Steve Hassan is connected to that's very tied in with the CIA. There's a clip where they're trying to own me. And they admit, oh, it's not just Steve Hassan. There's this whole network of ex-extremists who are tied in with BreadTube. Go and look at that clip where Caleb Kane says, oh, Caleb's not just right. He's 100% right. And they somehow think that that's a burn, right? I have been Nobody has been more proven correct than I am on this point. I am beyond validated on this point. So the fact that he thinks that's a burn, he thinks somehow he's got me on this point. Like, I'm sorry, what I wrote, I had far less evidence than is out there now. Everybody knows I was right, to the point that the bread tubers now joke about it. Right? Abigail Thorne begins her videos by saying, "I'm funded by George Soros. Ha ha." You know, they basically admit they're CIA now. They do segments with Hillary Clinton. I am the guy who blew the lid on BreadTube. And BreadTube are the biggest shills for US imperialism there are. If anything, you should be making videos about how I am heroic. You should be making videos about how I'm right and I exposed a big conspiracy against Marxism, because the ruling class of the United States, the Steve Hassan wing of the deep state, MI6 and British intelligence, and now Hillary Clinton, they all came together. They all got together and they started promoting Marxists on the internet. And I was the first one to call it what it was. I was the first one to call it out for what it was. And if anything, you should be in awe of how correct I was. And the fact that you're making a hit piece on me to align with the BreadTube people who I exposed shows that you are utterly pathetic. If Hillary Clinton approves, then they're deep state. But let's continue. And keep the super chats coming, folks. We're well into the show, but I got to have something to talk about in the second half. So there you go. All right. Continue.
Regardless of who is criticizing him, a knee-jerk default into baseless conspiracy theories, a wholehearted refusal to engage in criticism or self-criticism, in a slanderous attempt to enshrine himself as the only...
Dankey, you don't actually engage in real criticism. Calling someone a Nazi is not real criticism. Calling someone with the record that I have of standing in solidarity with oppressed people around the world, fighting against the low-wage police state here in the United States, and calling them a Nazi is not real criticism. Okay? That's just not real criticism. That's not respectable criticism. I'm open to criticism. In fact, I appreciate genuine criticism. Nothing in this video so far has been genuine criticism. You basically said anyone who waves an American flag is a nationalist and a racist. You lied about Earl Browder. You claimed a debate that I had with a fascist was somehow an endorsement of them. You dismissed one of the greatest Marxists in the Western world, Joti Brar, as a TERF. I have not heard a single legit criticism in this video so far. So the fact that I don't respond to trash like this, where you call me a racist and a white supremacist and a fascist and somehow a revisionist Marxist, which those things are different, you know, the fact that I don't respond to this kind of crap with sympathy, that doesn't mean I'm not able to take criticism. Real criticism would be, I think you could do it this way. I think you could do it that way. I think you're wrong on this point. That's not what you're doing here. You are character assassinating me. You said that I'm the number one threat, not the U.S. imperialist. You're basically telling people that me and the Center for Political Innovation, not the FBI, not the deep state, not the people trying to get us into a war, not even the social democrats like AOC, but me and the CPI, we are the main threat, the number one threat. And you expect me to treat this like it's just a legit criticism? Like it's like, oh, he's got a point there. Oh, yeah, well, that's a fair point. I'll have to think about that. Like, when you engage in this kind of childish character assassination, no one has any obligation to take it seriously. If you were to actually read anything that I wrote, and come up with a real criticism of what I wrote, I would like that. And in fact, one of the best criticisms I ever got was from a libertarian. And I'll tell this story, right? It's a sidetrack, but hey, what the heck? You know, I'll tell this story because actually you can learn from criticism. Criticism is a good thing. Yeah. But you know, one time I wrote an article talking about how Russia and China both have heavily state-run economies, and they've had huge amounts of economic growth, and that this is an argument against the free market. Libertarians always tell us that only the free market can create economic growth. And there was a libertarian who read my article, and they actually made a really, really good point that I had never thought about before. And the more I investigated and the more I studied Deng Xiaoping theory, I realized they were right. And it was a really good point, and it really changed the way I think about Marxism, which is they said it's true that Russia and China both have heavily state-controlled economies. Russia's got Gazprom and Rosneft, two state-controlled energy companies that are like the basis of their economy. China has a huge amount of state-run industries. But, they said, unlike the United States, the middle class of both Russia and China is big and growing, and that small business owners are a much bigger part of Russian and Chinese society. That is a really good point. That's real criticism. They pointed out that libertarians really value small business owners, and the free marketeers really like small business owners, the marketplace competition, and that, yes, Russia and China do have heavily state-controlled economies, but in their control of the economy, both the Russian government and the Chinese government have both worked very hard to facilitate private companies and a marketplace. That is a really good point. That's true, right? And that 21st century socialism, if you look at the theories of Marta Harnecker, who's the ideologue behind Bolivarian socialism in Latin America, if you look at the successes that they've had in Bolivia and Nicaragua with their micro entrepreneurship program, a state-controlled economy facilitating a market sector is actually a big part of 21st century socialism. It's a big part of Deng Xiaoping theory. It's a big part of Bolivarianism. And I learned so much from that real criticism. This libertarian actually read what I wrote, and they fact-checked it, and they admitted, well, I was right about this, but I was missing something. That's real criticism, and that's good criticism, because they taught me something I didn't know. You're not doing that, Dankey. All you're doing is calling me a racist settler American colonial guy. You're doing guilt by association. You're doing internet cancel culture. You're lying about my record. You're distorting my positions. You're calling us Nazis. Like, none of this is legit criticism. This is just childish baiting. This is just childish baiting. That's all this is. You know, you hear LaRouche, you get triggered. You hear China, modern China, you get triggered. You hear turf and you get triggered. Like, none of this is a legitimate criticism. And so when you come at me with this kind of garbage, right? None of this is all just chronically online loser bullshit. He talked to a fascist one time, and then he talked to this woman who is like a turf, and he likes LaRouche, and this is not legit. This is not legit criticism. You're not engaging with my ideas. You're not pointing out flaws in my logic. You're just cancel culture baiting. That's all you're doing. LaRouche is bad, and like he promotes LaRouche. And this woman in Britain, like I don't know anything about her, but I heard that she's like a turf, and so like you talk to her and she's the turf. Oh my god. That's all you're doing. I'm not going to respond to that politely. I'm not going to give that any respect, because that's not genuine criticism. That's just stupid, chronically online bullshit. And it fits in with you saying that the Communist Party of the 1930s didn't work out too well. Good night. Good night. Good night.
True Marxist in America today.
When have I ever said that? That I'm the only true Marxist in America today? When? Show me one place where I've ever said that.
His followers in the CPI dogmatically devote themselves to Maupin, and Caleb is fond.
Did you hear all that? All CPI members in there. Just so you know, you dogmatically devote yourself to me. Did you hear that? Just so you know. I mean, that's what he knows about your life, right? You know, I think you've all quit your jobs, right? You've all signed over your homes and property to me. You all walk around with T-shirts with my face on it. Like, has he ever met a member of CPI? You dogmatically devote yourselves to me. This is just stupid. This is just stupid.
Of unleashing his followers on any and all detractors he has.
I unleash my followers. Like, this is so sad. Were people mean to you on the internet, Dankey? Were people mean to you on the internet? I unleash my followers. Were people mean to you on the internet, Dankey? Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's right, Ryan. Go get him. Go get him. All right, all right. I mean, this is just, oh God, this is so sad. I unleash my followers. Like, dude, Dankey, if you're going to do this, I'm just telling you this, Dankey, right? I'm doing you a favor by doing this whole damn thing. And we'll talk about that later. But I'm going to tell you another thing, Dankey. If you're going to do this and make videos about Marxism on the internet, you got to be able to deal with people being mean to you. You got to be able to deal with people canceling you, digging into your personal life, insulting you on an emotional and personal level. Look, I've been through hell. They have gone after my wife. They have gone into the details of my marriage. They have been so vicious and evil to me, and I'm still here. So if you're upset that somebody who likes me was unleashed on you to be mean to you on the internet, you're in the wrong business, my friend. You are in the wrong business. I mean, you're doing that whole like, oh, I had him on my podcast once. I'm sorry. Dude, like, I'm just telling you, it's only going to get worse from here. All right. I mean, if you can't handle CPI members arguing with you after you make videos like this, if you can't handle being able to say, yeah, I had Caleb on my podcast, but I don't agree with him anymore. I mean, if you are this pathetic as you revealed yourself to be throughout this video, I mean, this whole video just screams of people were mean to me on the internet. I'm not even going to show the Haas part, right? Haas can deal with the Haas part. That's really the Haas part. It's just a lot of, oh, people were mean to me on the internet. If I made a video every time people were mean to me on the internet and cried pathetically like this person, if every time somebody I used to work with has changed their views and didn't associate with me, I had to get on here and do a whole leap and backflip about, oh boy, this person really has no emotional strength. This is a really weak person, and he's setting himself up to be just hurt in a lot of ways. I mean, he should stop doing this. I mean, if he doesn't want to get hurt, he should join a real organization. He should join a real organization, build real events, have real protests. That's what he should do. He needs real life movement experience, because the internet is just a mean, nasty place where people are just mean and nasty and lie about people and stuff like that. It's only going to get worse for you here, Dankey. It's only going to get worse for you. And if this is how you're reacting to everything that's happened so far, your channel's like tiny at this point. It's only going to get worse. The bigger you get, the more jealous people are going to be. The bigger you get, the more people are going to see you as a competitor. The more people are going to tear you down. The more trolls are going to come to your channel. Like, dude, if this is how you're handling, my fans disagreeing with you or people baiting you because I was on your podcast one time a long time ago, you're just going to break, my friend. You are just going to break psychologically. This is going to destroy you. So I would try to find another way to make a contribution.
In my personal experience, I tried to reach out to Maupin and constructively criticize his descent, or rather his unveiling, into Nazbol-style rhetoric.
Okay. I want to point something out here. This is great, right? He's calling me a national Bolshevik, a white settler colonialist. Who is in this video? He shows me on the screen here, right? No, we'll just turn the sound off. We'll keep the sound on, right? This is perfect.
Detractors he has. In my personal experience, I tried to reach out to Maupin and constructively criticize his dissent.
That's me, right? He's criticizing my dissent,
or rather his unveiling, into Nazbol-style rhetoric.
He's calling me a Nazi, a white supremacist. This is the Uhuru movement. This is a group of black revolutionaries who had their homes raided by the FBI. The FBI flew drones into their home, pointed guns in their faces, dragged them out of their homes at gunpoint, held them in handcuffs. And at our conference that happened just a week afterwards, we gave them a platform and we chanted no more raids, and we have done so much to highlight this case. And you sit on the internet and call us racist and call us Nazis. And at the very moment you're calling us Nazis, you are literally showing us on video doing more to support a group of black revolutionaries than you have ever done. There is not a single video on your YouTube channel, Dankey, defending the Uhuru movement or calling out the FBI raids against them. Not a single one. And you are so non-self-aware. You show us doing more than you have ever done to fight racism, more than you have ever done to oppose the FBI and their attack on black revolutionaries. And you show a clip of that while you call us Nazis. Can you, this entire clip is just an argument for you having no idea what you are talking about. You're showing a clip of us standing in solidarity with black revolutionaries who got dragged out of their home with guns, accused of being Russian agents. And you're showing that we had the courage and the willingness to give them a platform at our conference, to stand in solidarity with them and get attacked for it. And you show that on the screen while you're trying to tell your audience that we're racist. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, can you be more out of touch than reality? I mean, this guy has done nothing to support the Uhuru movement. Absolutely nothing to support the Uhuru movement. Nothing. And he makes a video calling us white supremacists, calling us racists, calling us settler colonialists. And at the very time he's calling us that, he shows video of us doing more to fight racism than he has ever done. If you want to talk about somebody who just is completely clueless, again, not a single video on his channel calling out the FBI for raiding these black revolutionaries' homes. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And his reactionary populism.
Yeah, that's reactionary populism right there. You know, John Brown and Fred Hampton and standing in support of the Uhuru movement. That is reactionary populism right there. I mean, that's what reactionaries always do. They support Fred Hampton. They stand in solidarity with black revolutionaries who get raided by the FBI. You can't make this up. This guy, it's like he doesn't even, did he watch this? Did he like think for a moment, like, if I'm going to call Caleb a white supremacist, maybe I shouldn't show a clip of him standing in solidarity with black people who I don't even have the fucking courage to stand in solidarity with?
Summarized when he tried to equate the struggle for women's rights and LGBT rights as a culture war and not part of the class struggle.
No. What I tweeted out, I made my tweet, and I said that if you're against gay marriage or against abortion, I might disagree with you, but you're still my comrade. That's what I tweeted out, because I am for abortion rights and I am for gay marriage being legal. But Muslims who are against those things, I will march in solidarity with you for Palestine. You know, Catholics who are against those things, I will march in solidarity with you against the death penalty. Communists who think that homosexuality is bourgeois decadence, which many communist parties around the world believe, I will march in solidarity with you. Puerto Rican activists who think that abortion is genocide, and remember when Puerto Rican women had their tubes tied, I will march in solidarity with you. I tweeted that out. I tweeted out that if you're against abortion and against gay marriage, I might vehemently disagree with you, but you're still my comrade. And I was being canceled for it by people like Humanist Report, who is just a pathetic Joe Biden liberal. And they were all coming at me, all of them. All of liberal Twitter was piling on about what a bad person I was for being willing to work with Roman Catholics, for being willing to work with Muslims, for being willing to work with the Puerto Rican community, for, you know, and they were saying all kinds of stupid shit like, oh, of course a white man would say that, as if only white men are against abortion and gay marriage, right? Like no black person has ever opposed abortion or gay marriage. No Chicano person or Puerto Rican person. They were all dogpiling on me. And you saw a communist, a well-known communist, myself, being dogpiled by liberals And you thought, now I could support the communist who's being dogpiled and canceled. That tweet was retweeted over 1,000 times. And they were all piling on to me. It was it was crazy because I've done a lot more controversial shit in my life. It was one of the most extreme cancels I've ever had. I have never been retweeted that many times. And they were just all jumping on there about what a bad person I was. And Dankey saw this, and he saw a Russia Today reporter, TV network that's against U.S. imperialism. He saw the leader of a communist organization being piled on like this. And he then decided to attack me. And I don't respect that as legitimate. Of course I don't. I'm being canceled because I'm willing to stand in solidarity with Muslims for Palestine, even if they're against abortion and against gay marriage. I'm being canceled for being willing to work with Puerto Ricans who have the historical experience of white people trying to exterminate them and forcibly tying the tubes of their women. And so because of that, many Puerto Rican women are against abortion. I'm being canceled for willing to stand with priests and nuns who oppose the death penalty, but also oppose abortion and gay marriage because that's their Catholic faith. I'm being canceled for being willing to stand with the Nation of Islam, one of the most important black revolutionary organizations that also opposes abortion and gay marriage. I'm being canceled for being willing to work with oppressed people, even if they have views that are not approved by CNN. And they retweeted me like 1,000, 2,000 times. I mean, it was the biggest cancel I've ever got. And he saw this happening. And a lot of people reached out to me and were supporting me. There were a lot of people. There's a great radio host in Chicago who reached out to me. That was great. There were all kinds of people reaching out to me and supporting me during that whole thing. But this guy, he claims to be a communist, and he saw the liberals attacking me for doing what any good communist would do and being willing to stand in solidarity with oppressed people, even if they don't have socially liberal views. And he decided to attack me. And he's surprised I didn't treat that as a legit point. I didn't go, oh, yes, Mr. Dankey. Oh, well, we may disagree with each other, but I do consider that to be a good point, Mr. Dankey. Oh, yes, I've got a good point. Oh, you made a decent point there. Perhaps I should throw oppressed people under the bus. You've got a good point there, sir. We may disagree with each other, but I shall defend to the death your right to say what you believe, sir. Like he expected me to respond that way. Again, this guy has no clue about what's going on in the real world, right? And again, he thinks he's a victim here, right? I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, it's like the pathetic, like, I'm really sorry for having Caleb on my podcast once. The pathetic apology that just wouldn't end. It just kept going. And with every fiber in his bone, he denounces and disavows. Oh my God, please don't forgive me for having Caleb on my podcast. And then, oh my God, Caleb unleashes his fans. And some of my fans were mean to him one time. And then now it's like, oh my God. And when he was, and then he's going over the time where I was being canceled for saying something that's completely defensible and completely principled. And I mean, this is sad. This is really, really sad. Anyway, we're almost done.
I'll be dedicating an entire episode of Essentials of Maoism to destroying this line of thought. But the short...
Yeah, that's right. Mao and all of his writings, like every page of the Red Book has something about the trans question in it. Every page of the little red book is on the LGBT thing. I mean, this is so stupid. The Essentials of Maoism. And he's going to talk about LGBT and why that's important. Dude, I hate to break it to you, but, I am for LGBT rights, but Mao was not, my friend. Maoist communist groups even were not. Some of the Maoist groups were some of the most notoriously homophobic communist groups in the left. The fact that even making a video called Essentials of Maoism, and it would focus on gay rights, shows you have absolutely no clue about what. Yeah, I mean, do you really think, did Mao take power on a platform of transgender surgeries? Did Mao take power on a platform of gay marriage? I mean, this is, oh man, I mean, I am for LGBT rights, 100%. I am against bullying. I was bullied on, I was the victim of anti-gay bullying, and, I sympathize, and I am totally against any of the like shaming and degrading and attacks LGBT people face. But if you think that I mean, if Mao were alive today in the United States, do you really think that he would be like, all right, we got to fight for trans surgery. We got to beat up TERFs. That's what Mao would do. If he was, I mean, do you think that's applying Mao's, mass line? Is that what Mao would do if he was alive today? To apply his mass line by going around beating up TERFs? Oh, man. I mean, wow. Wow. Wow.
Here is that right opportunist pseudo-Marxists will ignore identity politics and diminish it as a non-important culture war rather than recognize its
Well, identity politics that says the issue is not socialism. That says the way oppressed people gain liberation is not through the overthrow of capitalism and the breaking down of oppressive relations, but instead through competing narratives and representation, having representation within the capitalist state. Saying that that's not the same as communism, that's completely legitimate. Identity politics, communists. Let me school you here, my friend. Dankey, communists want to overthrow capitalism. Identity politics means we want the CEOs of American capitalism to have more black people and women among them. So you can see how those kind of things are not compatible, right? Communists want the banks, factories, and industries to be organized to serve public good and not the profits of a wealthy few. That's what we want. That is what we want. And identity politics is just about putting out the narratives of oppressed people. Identity politics is just about representation in the seats of power. And so it's a completely different worldview. Completely different worldview. So why does it bother you that I would call out an identity politics? I mean, like, do you know what Marxism is? Do you know that this stuff is not compatible with Marxism? I mean, have you seen the clips of Fred Hampton calling out identity politics? Where he's arguing about, Baby Doc and Haiti. And I mean, you don't know any of this? Like, do you know what Marxism is? Do you know what identity politics is? I mean, anyway, it's sad. But anyway, he's almost done.
rightful place within the class war. They will disregard the struggles of oppressed identities and false.
Yeah, how did we do that? When a group of black revolutionaries gets their homes raided by the FBI, we're one of the only communist groups that will support them, and you don't. But we're disregarding the struggles of oppressed people. Was I disregarding the struggles of oppressed people when I got 2 women acquitted in juvenile court after I videotaped the police beating them up? Like, I am quoted frequently in Final Call, the newspaper of the Nation of Islam, one of the main black nationalist organizations in the United States. You do realize that, right? But I'm not interested in the struggles of oppressed people, right? I mean, this is so ridiculous.
Equate all identity politics to liberalism. This is emblematic of the privilege that some opportunists.
Identity politics is liberalism. The nationalism of the oppressed, that's different. But identity politics is liberalism. Identity politics is liberal. It just says we need more representation within the capitalist power structure. It says that there's not a class struggle. It says the goal is not to create socialism. It just says we need competing narratives. It's a form of postmodernism. Intersectionality and all of that is liberalism.
Marxists possess. And this is emblematic of the petty bourgeois reactionary tendency that is rife within the Maupinites.
All right. So that's the brilliant video by Dankey there. I just did Dankey a huge favor, right? Just did Dankey a huge favor, right? And that's why, I don't know if I should do more segments like this. I was I was not sure if I should do this segment or not, but I decided to do it, right? And Dankey, you owe me for this, buddy. You know, your video is now going to get more views than ever because I did this for you. More people just watched your crap than ever would have watched it. There are more people watching right now probably than watched it today. And now people are running over there and leaving comments. And this is what everyone loves on YouTube, right? Everyone loves, oh, he said, she said, oh, they're fighting, they're fighting, they're fighting. Everyone loves that. Everybody loves that, right? So this is good for your channel. This is getting you more traffic on your channel. This is getting you more attention than you deserve. I'll tell you that much. But at the end of the day, like, the reason I had you on here is you're great. You're a great example because this is every single criticism I have from so-called communists is on this level. There was not one criticism of any position I actually take. He said flags are racist. Earl Browder, and he doesn't know anything about Earl Browder. He said we don't care about black people while showing video of us standing in solidarity with black people that he doesn't stand in solidarity with. He's got nothing. I mean, it's like that. There's no substance to any of that. It's just internet cancel culture, childish bullshit. That's all that was, and that's most of the criticism I get is like that. It has no substance whatsoever. It's just bullshit, right? I mean, that whole video, that was 6 minutes. I showed you the 6 minutes where he talks about me in this video. It's all just bullshit. Like, that's it, right? And I didn't waste time about Haas. Haas can defend himself. He can talk about himself, right? I didn't talk. I mean, it's all just bullshit, right? There is not a single legit criticism there. He's triggered by flags. He's triggered by LaRouche. He doesn't like modern China. That's all he's got. That's it. That's all these people have. Right? That's all they've got. People were mean to him on the internet. He's really, really, really sorry for having me on his podcast. He didn't know. And he cries. He's like almost breaks down into tears about having me on his podcast. Like, that's all he's got. And that's all the criticisms of me, But I really want people to think about what I said earlier, because what this video was, this was a display of emotional weakness. That's really what this was. I mean, the pathetic apology for having had me on his podcast once. He couldn't just say, I had him on once, but we don't agree anymore. No, he had to do that. He had to put on sackcloth and whip himself for having spoken to me. And then 3 times he brought up that people were mean to him on the internet. This is a display of emotional weakness. I don't want people in my organization to be weak. If you're working with me, I want you to be strong. I want you to be able to withstand criticism. I want you to be able to withstand being attacked. I want you to be able to withstand people lying about you. Folks, before I end my opening remarks for tonight and we get to the roll call, because we're heading towards 2 hours here. This has been a long opening remarks because it got me talking, right? And that's why it's good to do these kind of things, right? It gives me something to talk about, right? But I would encourage you, right? Just my advice, right? You don't have to listen to me, but if you want to read a book that will teach you about the mindset of a revolutionary, the mindset of someone who is opposed to the status quo, the mindset of somebody who wants to live a moral life and sacrifice for a cause that's higher than themselves, endure persecution, build a movement, I would encourage you to go read the New Testament of the Bible. That's what I would encourage you to go read. Go read the New Testament of the Bible. Because, not enough people read it nowadays. Go read the New Testament. Go read the Gospels. Go read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And you will read the account of a revolutionary who organized against the Roman Empire, who built a movement that has endured for well over 2,000 years, who had a message that has struck chords with people all across the planet, and read the words of Jesus. Read the words that he says to his followers, because Jesus was not telling his followers it's going to be a walk in the park. And he was not telling his followers everyone's going to like you. Jesus was saying to his followers, get ready to be canceled, get ready to be persecuted, get ready to have your family cut you off, get ready to lose everything you own, get ready to be hated by society. But it's going to be worth it in the end, because you're going to be doing what is right. So, I encourage you. I'm always telling you different books. Last night I was talking about Anna Louise Strong and William Z. Foster and all the different, writers who've influenced me, Sam Marcy and LaRouche and Nelson Peary. But, I think that the New Testament of the Bible is a foundational text. If you should read that if you haven't read the other stuff, because in order to really get what it's all about, in order to understand the mindset that gave birth to all of this, you really need to go read the New Testament. It's not long, but go read the New Testament, right? I mean, that is a book that has been so influential for thousands of years. The New Testament of the Bible, the second part of the Bible. And go and read it, and understand what Jesus was about, and understand why it was that Friedrich Nietzsche said that socialism was just nothing but Christianity. In my new book, I quote this, right? In chapter 4 of my new book, I talk about this, right? I quote how philosophical irrationalism has become kind of the ruling ideology of Western society. And Friedrich Nietzsche equated communism with Christianity. And I'll just read to you. I mean, this Friedrich Nietzsche, who's the big influence on all these pro-imperialist thinkers, right? He was just as much against Christianity as he was against socialism, and he equated them with each other. Right? He said, the fib of equality of souls has undermined the aristocratic outlook in the most insidious way. And while faith in the prerogative of the most is making and will make revolutions, it is Christianity. Let there be no mistake about it. And it is Christian judgments that turn every revolution into mere crime and bloodshed. Christianity is a revolt of all the groveling creatures against that which has stature. It is the gospel of the lowly, and it makes for lowliness. That's Friedrich Nietzsche speaking with hate for Christianity. Friedrich Nietzsche, he also wrote, he said, what else did he write? Well, I don't think I have other quotes from him. I have quotes from Lukács about him, but that quote from Nietzsche, right? Let us not underestimate the destiny that has crept all the way from Christianity into politics. Today, no one has the courage of special rights or the right of command or a sense of respect towards oneself and one's peers, a pathos of distance. Our politics are sick through an absence of courage. The fib of equality of souls has undermined the aristocratic outlook in the most insidious way. And while faith in the prerogative of the most is making and will make revolutions, it is Christianity. Let there be no mistake about it. And it is Christian judgments that turn every revolution into mere crime and bloodshed. Christianity is a revolt of all groveling creatures against that which has stature. The gospel of the lowly makes for lowliness. That's how much the elite hate Christianity, right? And Friedrich Nietzsche, Ayn Rand hated Christianity. She said it was the guilt-peddling Jesus industry. She said that money is not the source of all evil, it's the source of all good. She has a whole rant about that in The Fountainhead, or in the Atlas Shrugged book. Yeah, so if you really want to understand the basis of the outlook that kind of leads one to be a revolutionary, I would start with the New Testament, because it's a lot easier to read. It's a lot older, right? So that's just my advice there.